this expansion of the early community and becomes an early state is a case of state expansion, and so it was a conquest that involved armies and defeats of others' armies, as I suggested, with defeat of the Byzantine and Persian armies, are recorded both in Muslim sources and non-Muslim sources. But most of the towns and villages of the Near East seem to have capitulated peaceably. In any case, there's no evidence of destruction in the archaeological record to mark this so-called Islamic conquest. Very few exceptions. The city of Caesarea was besieged, and we see that's reported to us in our chronicles, later Muslim chronicles, and we do see evidence of a siege in Caesarea. And there's a burning layer and so on when the city finally fell. But this is almost unique. In hardly any other place do we find any trace of a conquest, of a forcible change of rulers. Now, it isn't to say that there wasn't some force involved. If an army camped outside the city, you might capitulate and the city would stay intact. But the fact is that for archaeologists, it's sort of become now a commonplace to observe that the Islamic conquest is archaeologically kind of invisible. You cannot see it in the material record, going from layer to layer in the archaeological record. It just doesn't show. The pottery doesn't change right away. There isn't a sudden change of material culture. There's no destruction layer to mark it. We don't know. Which, of course, makes it much more complicated to date things. If you get something from a certain late and you say, is this late Byzantine or is this early Islamic? Well, it was pretty hard to know because the culture was the same for 50 years there, and you don't know which side of the apparent barrier between pre-Islamic and Islamic this might fall on. There doesn't seem to have been any, or don't seem to have been any demands either that people brought into this new state convert to something immediately.